Thank you, Chairwoman Kim, Ranking Member Bera, and members of the distinguished subcommittee. Thanks for inviting me today. I'm pleased to offer policy insights from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a nonpartisan research institute where I serve as a senior fellow. Over the last 4 years, the Biden administration sought to stabilize relations with Beijing through sustained diplomatic dialogue and relatively restrained responses to myriad Chinese provocations. On paper, this approach aimed to avoid a bilateral breakdown. In practice, however, it did amount to diplomacy without much deterrence, emboldening Chinese Communist Party Chairman Xi Jinping to test our resolve at nearly every turn. Indeed, rather than reducing tensions, these well-intentioned diplomatic overtures paradoxically fueled Xi's worst impulses, enabling Beijing to expand its surveillance, ramp up its maritime assertiveness, and deepen its ties to other authoritarian regimes at next to no cost. During Biden's tenure, Chinese spy balloons entered U.S. airspace with little consequence, while hacking campaigns, Salt, Volt, and Flax Typhoon, targeted senior American officials and sensitive networks with barely a public rebuke. Even as Beijing dramatically intensified its incursions around Taiwan and in the South China Sea, Washington's focus remained on rapid de-escalation. If left unchecked, this dynamic risks encouraging Chinese overreach, raising the specter of miscalculation or worse, war. Today's predicament evokes lessons from the late stages of the Cold War, when Washington's misguided embrace of so-called peaceful coexistence inadvertently prolonged the Soviet system's survival, treating it as an immutable juggernaut rather than one vulnerable to sustained external and internal pressure. By minimizing accountability for Chinese espionage, coercion, and violations of international norms, we risk reinforcing Beijing's conviction that its revanchist ambitions need not be curbed. A new Trump administration and the 119th Congress can move beyond mere coexistence with China, if for no other reason that the US and China embody fundamentally incompatible systems and ideologies. Simply put, today's contest cannot end in stalemate. The United States must ensure its model prevails. Moving beyond mere coexistence, a bold yet realistic aim, does not require an explicit bid for regime change. Rather, Washington should push Beijing onto an unsustainable path where credible deterrence, targeted economic pressure, and principled diplomacy expose the structural flaws of Xi's Marxist-Leninist framework. By holding out the prospect of genuine concessions on issues like trade, we can force Beijing to confront the spiraling costs of continued hostility, potentially hastening the CCP's own unraveling if it refuses to alter course. Ultimately, time is on our side if we choose to make it so. Chief among the measures Congress should consider are robust outbound investment screening and bans, accompanied with enhanced export controls and targeted sanctions to deny Xi access to both U.S. capital markets and critical technologies for military-civil fusion. Credible, proactive threats of punitive action if China crosses red lines over Taiwan or in the South China Sea reinforce that brinksmanship will be met with real enforcement. Meanwhile, Washington must support beleaguered democracies on the front lines of Chinese coercion. HFAC can champion streamlined foreign military sales and leverage presidential drawdown authorities for Taiwan, ensuring swift delivery of defensive systems and asymmetric capabilities without bureaucratic delay. A leaner, meaner, more focused foreign assistance regime centered around strategic infrastructure, digital governance, and anti-corruption programming would also deny China a foothold in critical ports, curb risky 5G networks, and strengthen partners' resilience to Chinese coercion. By demonstrating that America remains both principled and reliable, we fill aid gaps that Beijing might otherwise exploit. Finally, by insisting that allies, including Taiwan, invest more in their own security, the U.S. can spread the financial load while preserving its leadership role. This flexible transactional approach aligns with the President's America First ethos. It rewards partners who step up while denying Beijing easy wins. Rather than striving for a fragile equilibrium in the Indo-Pacific, Washington must create an overwhelming deterrent that renders any attempt at forcible reunification or broader regional domination prohibitively costly. No such deterrent exists today. By shifting from passive coexistence to purposeful competition on America's terms, we can challenge the illusion of stability that has emboldened Beijing. This decisive posture, rooted in assertive reprisal rather than reflexive de-escalation, may pave the way for a new era of enduring leadership in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. On behalf of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, I thank you again for inviting me to testify today.